Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers turn it over and over and over and over and over again and have a bad loss against the Pistons heading into Christmas Day. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always going to be free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where over 26,000 subscribers are all wondering why so many turnovers on Monday. The Lakers, as a team, turn it over 20 times, and the Pistons take advantage. We'll go through some of the numbers. It really is one of these nights where you can point to one category and say that is why the Lakers lost. And on the heels of some really nice wins, this one stings. So we will unpack all of it here momentarily. Want to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So some fun numbers here, Andy. The Lakers as a team shot over 50% from the floor, 54%, I should say. That's pretty robust. They shot almost 47% from three-point range. They made 80% of their free throws, 20 of 25, and took 13 more than the visiting Detroit Pistons. So why did they lose this game, Andy? Those 20 turnovers. It is, you can draw a straight line, 20 turnovers, lose the game.
Yeah, Austin Reaves, who led the team in turnovers, not a category you want to be leading in, he had 6 on the night. He acknowledged afterwards that he did not handle Detroit's blitzes well and that he needed to be better in general. He was not alone. Every single Laker, except Dalton Connect, turned the ball over at least once. Again, Reaves was 6 of them, and Reaves had 5, I believe, at the half. I mean, he just bad combination of not being able to handle the blitzes. A few times he just made some bad passes, and again, he is not alone, but he was sort of the embodiment of a Lakers team that we can get into some of. I think it was more than just simply not handling the blitzing and that physicality and athleticism from Detroit well. I think there were times where the Lakers made it even easier for Detroit to capitalize on that. But JJ said after the game that this was something they talked about, like you should be expecting Detroit to be defending us like this and to be sending those blitzes, looking to trap, really be aggressive on it. And the Lakers simply just did not respond well to this at all.
They didn't. And, there's 20 turnovers. Redick went through sort of the list of it. And there are always going to be some careless ones, guys dribbling off their foot. Just, I think it was a lazy pass inbound, goes to Beasley. He scored, hits a triple, stuff like that. A sequence in the second half, where D'Angelo Russell, clearly miscommunication with LeBron, where he thinks LeBron is going to pop out off of the elbow, area. LeBron stays where he is. The ball just ran, it's an easy bucket the other way.
I believe that sequence got D'Lo yanked.
I think it did.
Yeah, I don't think D'Lo played again after that.
Yeah, he was. It's like who's the guy in The Godfather? But you won't be seeing him anymore. It was Paulie. A little bit like that. Yeah, it was Paulie.
Speaking of Paulie, this game, I tweeted out at Cam Brothers. It felt like the inverse of Michael Corleone's iconic line in The Godfather 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. This game and these Lakers at times can be just when I thought I was in, they pull me back out. Like just the run that they've been on of late to then turn around and not just lose this game, but lose a game that, despite all of the issues they had, was still winnable.
It was. But I think that was one of the things that was so interesting about it and really drives home the transformative impact of turnovers in this game is Detroit was really clean for about 95% of the game. The 5% came in the last minute and a half, where they had, I think, 3 turnovers that gave the Lakers a chance to have a game-tying three-pointer, which they actually got a very nice look, and LeBron, as good a look as you're going to get with a catch-and-shoot 3 with 3.5 seconds left. LeBron just missed the shot. Like, it was Detroit's turnovers that allowed the Lakers to even be in a situation where they could try to win the game. And so, like, this was a game that was about turnovers. And I think the Lakers, Redick said, and I agree, that this was different than the loss in Detroit, where the Lakers sort of rolled into that one. And I just don't think ever took that game seriously. Should have, obviously. And, I think we do need to recalibrate a little bit our perception of what the Pistons are, because while they are not a good team yet, they've already won more games or as many games this year as they did all of last year. So, like, more,
and they're nearly 500 on the road.
Yeah. So they're not a trash team anymore. Like, they've got, picked up some smart veterans, and it's a little like the San Antonio model in the sense of good young players surrounded by maybe a little more stability, guys like Tobias Harris, whatever. You still should beat them on your home floor. They're not that good. But what they do is they play in a style that is problematic for the Lakers. And I think, as we go on throughout the week and talk about games, that to me is the bigger issue, because in this game, I think they were sloppy at points, but I don't think they were dismissive. I think what they struggled with, whether it was LeBron, whether it was Austin Reaves, Gabe Vincent at a couple times just had turnovers where, like, the Pistons were all over some of their ball reversals and the gaps that the Lakers normally fit balls into on the pick and roll and stuff like that. And particularly when they were aggressive physically, the Lakers really struggled, even long after they knew what the Pistons were doing. They just, from a physicality standpoint, struggled to respond, which kind of makes sense to me, at least based on their roster, because they are not an overly athletic team, with a ton of extra strength and a ton of extra dynamic athleticism to counteract some of the stuff that Detroit was doing.
Well, I think it's more about the lack of athleticism than the lack of physicality or potential physicality at the very least, because the Lakers, particularly with Christie now in the starting lineup, and Christie, for what it's worth, I think was one of the bright spots of this game.
Played a great game.
Max Christie had 17 points, which I believe is a career high for him. I thought he was he was 6-10 from the field, 3 of 4 from behind the arc, made both of his free throws, had a couple steals. I thought he also was part of a defensive effort against Cade Cunningham that held him to a very inefficient night. Cunningham had 20 points, but 9 of 25 from the field, had 5 turnovers, he had 10 rebounds, and Cunningham he's a big guard, and had 10 assists. He's difficult to contain.
He's a good player. I mean, like the idea that and I want to talk a little bit more about the defense and Christie for that matter in the next segment. But the idea that, how you define a good defensive game, like if a guy like Cade Cunningham has a good number in their box score, like, that's gonna happen. He's really good, but they made him work though for it.
Right,
I agree with you.
He was not controlling this. He controlled it as a playmaker, but they made him be one or the other as opposed to both.
And I want to get your thoughts though on the defense itself, because you look at some of Detroit's percentages, and you might say the Lakers weren't very good on that side of the ball, 117 points, and they were over 50% and all that kind of stuff. I'm curious what you think about how they actually played on defense as opposed to defense that was created by bad offense. We'll get to that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risks. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC.
I mean, if there's one more number, Andy, that really sticks out in this game to me, and certainly it was to JJ Redick, it was to the studio crew with Spectrum Sportsnet, and down the line, it's 18. That is the disparity in field goal attempts between the Pistons and the Lakers. Obviously, it's not totally apples to apples because the Lakers got the line more, so they did have a couple more shots that don't show up in the box score. But you're talking about 14, 15, 16 more opportunities to score for the Pistons than the Lakers had. And on a night where you're shooting 54% and making 47% of your threes, I think that if the Lakers had half of those possessions back, even if they don't walk over the Pistons in a way that people think they maybe should, I do think they win the game if you get those possessions back. In the half court, when they weren't giving the ball to the Pistons, how do you think they played defensively? Again, Detroit only went to the line 12 times, and while they did shoot over 50% from the floor, but a lot of that, to me at least, was fueled by the Lakers offensively, as giving them the ball, opportunities to score.
I think for the most part, again, it begins with what you do against Cade Cunningham, because he's the guy running their offense. And I thought they did a very good job of making Cunningham work, and at the very least turning him into a relatively more effective playmaker than scorer. But even then, he had 10 assists against 5 turnovers. So it's not like, one of those nights where Chris Paul has like 17 assists against 3 turnovers. I mean, they were able to get Cunningham out of rhythm, I think, on a lot of different counts. And if you do that to Cunningham, you're going to mess up Detroit's offense. I don't have the numbers in front of me that I would want in terms of like how efficiently Detroit scored off turnover opportunities. They had 28 points.
I believe is the short answer. I think.
Right. They had 28 points off turnovers. So they did a lot of damage. And were I to guess, the majority of, it certainly felt this way in real time. And, if I was able to go back and watch the game, Detroit had 24 fast break points. I imagine a lot of those were points directly off turnovers. And, JJ said it after the game, they really just capitalized well on Laker mistakes. You mentioned before, like D'Angelo Russell, for example, I think he got benched after that sequence we described between him and LeBron, that miscommunication that looked in real time like it was more D'Lo than LeBron. There was a sequence, I want to say.
Yeah, it's a bad looking pass. It's sort of a one-handed little layoff. It's just kind of and D'Lo was not having a great game anyway.
No,
didn't lose much by putting him on the bench. Other than having a guy who could respond a little more effectively, perhaps as a ball handler to some of the ball pressure. But
well, I was going to say, in the first half, in terms of like an example of Detroit capitalizing off mistakes, and this one just also happened to involve D'Lo, the Pistons missed on a possession, and the Lakers were pushing. D'Lo put up a quick 3 in transition, basically one-on-one with nobody close to around him. You could have just waited a little bit, resettled, or even driven in. they ended up missing, and Malik Beasley, who this was the best show Malik Beasley ever put on in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, he was with the other team, but they ended up scoring a 3 on this scrambled defense that the Lakers had to play as a result of just D'Lo making just a really poor choice. And most of the time, I think when the Lakers made a poor choice, Detroit capitalized.
And that it's that calibration to recognize who you're playing and what the strengths are of the team that you're playing. And I just don't think they adjusted to that well. But I mean, in terms of what's annoying to me about this, other than obviously the result, this is, again, it doesn't matter to me that Detroit's not a terrible team. It's a game on your own floor that you ought to win. It's that when they didn't give the ball away, this is one of their better offensive games in a while. Like they actually shot the ball well. They generated some good shots. They were, and you tweeted about this, way too slow getting to their offense, which I think the other byproduct of what Detroit was doing, other than turning the Lakers over, is it was slowing them down in a big way to try, because they couldn't get guys off of screens. They couldn't get moving in ways that, so it wasn't just the turnovers that the physicality hurt them. It was the motion of their offense. And I think that got them stuck in the mud, led to a lot of late clock threes, but they still got a lot of good shots, converted at a high rate, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you led me to one of the things I wanted to bring up. Part of the reason I think the Pistons were able to be so successfully physical against the Lakers when they were on offense is because the Lakers were taking so long to set up in anything that it actually allowed the Pistons, I think, a lot of time to just set up what they were doing, to get to a good spot to either front a Laker that you might want to pass to, or, just basically get to the spots that the Lakers wanted to and just set up shop, because the Lakers were taking so long to just set up anything. Like there were so many times where, and I think LeBron and AD were probably the biggest culprits in this, where you didn't even see them start running some action until 17, 18 seconds are off the clock. And then, there was one sequence where LeBron had spent a lot of time dribbling out the possession. Then he ends up giving up the ball to AD. AD only has like 2 seconds left. He passes off to D'Lo in the corner. And D'Lo tried getting a shot up, but he didn't have enough time. There's
another play where LeBron, LeBron gave the ball to D'Lo, basically as the buzzer went off.
Right. There's another time like that too. And when you give a team that definitely has an athleticism advantage over you, and at worst is a physical push, that much time to set up defensively, they're going to be able to be really disruptive, because you're making the work easier for them by not moving around, by not making them ever have to adjust to anything, not have to react to anything. They just, it almost got me wondering if the Lakers, particularly this made me wonder about it with LeBron, if expending this energy on defense, LeBron's now doing the reverse of what he used to do, sometimes getting his rest back on defense. Yeah. It's like he's getting his rest back on offense, bringing the ball up slowly.
No, it's hard for me.
I'm not saying it's what it's doing. I know.
I understand what you're getting at. I think it's one of these things where you go, I'm sure the coaching staff obviously is going to go back and look at it, but it's like, what is the ratio between the Lakers weren't moving and that made it easier for the Pistons versus the Pistons were making it hard for the Lakers to move and the Lakers didn't respond? Well, I suspect there's a lot of overlap in that diagram.
I think it's much more the Lakers being slow. I mean, there was a lot of
they've had a habit of going. They have a habit of going slowly too much anyway, but when their offense isn't working very well. But I think, like I said, I just think all of it was made worse by the style that the Lakers were really uncomfortable at moments. And Dan Wojcicki at the Times asked a question of Redick after the game, which I think is kind of the crux of this. Like, the Lakers they got to go play Houston. There are other teams that will body you up and are young and athletic and run around a lot and force turnovers and all that. Teams that are going to be on the schedule coming up, or maybe that they've already played, but we'll see again, that will do this to the Lakers. Like, this is a blueprint that the Pistons have now used twice to beat the Lakers. It's not a secret. People understand the Lakers are not an overly athletic team. So at some point, the Lakers are going to have to figure out how to respond effectively to this style of play. What are the counters? What are what actions can we run to lighten the impact of this kind of thing? Because you can't allow it to force you into this amount of mistakes and this amount of disruptiveness in your offense. Got to come up with something better. They did at the beginning of the game, and then it just got stuck in the mud. So let's talk a little bit more about Christie, though, because this game to me was a great example of, I think, what the Lakers are looking for, not just defensively, but what they think he can do on the other side of the ball as well. So I want to mention that next.
Locked On Lakers are brought to you by FanDuel, and you can tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So say you get a hunch in the middle of a game. This is a really, really great feature of FanDuel. Like, you're watching a game, it feels like you're anticipating everything that's happening, but you just want to make sure that you're not just imagining this. You can check out the latest stats and view live play-by-play, so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So all that info is streamlined right there for you. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. And again, you get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's it. FanDuel.com, never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Real quick before we get to Christie, as far as that idea of what the Lakers can do to counter some of this, I really do think a lot of this can be alleviated, if not solved, by really making a point of just getting into your action quicker. And by doing that, I think it just gives the defense less time to just set up shop for what they want to do against you. But also, like, similar to what I didn't like about the automatic switching that we saw in the way they did it earlier in the season defensively, I feel like offensively, the slower that they go and the more that they just kind of crawl the ball up court, piddle away 14 seconds before they even sort of do something, the more it creates a permission structure to freelance because they're out of time to do anything.
Right.
And the more this team freelances, the more their offense sucks. And I think also, too, the less action they're actually running, the more you start relying on guys like D'Lo and Austin, who aren't great at breaking guys down off the dribble, to have to do that because you don't necessarily have enough time to pull up a screen or really run something complete. Or LeBron can do that, but he starts getting more tired and it starts taking more out of him.
He gets, LeBron did LeBron had a good game overall. I mean, I think, his, strong triple double, he was active. I think, he had some of the turnover problems that the rest of the team did, but 11 assists against 2 turnovers. There could have been a couple more bouncing balls and stuff like that Detroit didn't come up with. But
he didn't turn the ball over a lot, but I think he was very guilty of a lot of the slow offense, though.
Correct. And I think what the coaching staff is going to go back and look through is like, I think the team was a little, I get why you don't want to be running up and down the floor with Detroit and like sort of speeding the game up to play at their pace, and why you want to slow it down a little bit. I just think they were, a second or two too slow in that. And that's something that's happened to them, periodically. That's not a brand new problem. Like, get into your offense faster. Stu Lance's favorite thing on the broadcast is to comment on, okay, it's 5 seconds, it's 4, it's like, you're not
this
going
is
anywhere.
absolutely recurrent. That's why I don't think it was so much about Detroit as it is about them.
No, but I think the problem is the outlets that they would normally have, like, the action that you do end up running, whether it's a freelance action off a read or whether it's a set, play or whatever it is, it's mucked up. And so it takes longer. And so, if it takes everybody a quarter second longer to come off some sort of back screen or come around a pick or something like that, and you've got like 5 of those, in any given possession, I'm just making up numbers here, obviously, but that's 2 seconds, that's 3 seconds. And it doesn't seem like, but like now what's too slow anyway is catastrophically slow. And so I think that was part of it. So, I mean, I'm not here to complain about LeBron's game at, again, 28, 11, and 11 against 2 turnovers and all that. I thought AD was active, 19, he didn't score a ton, but 19, 10, 6. The Lakers scored. If they weren't giving the ball away, the Lakers would have scored enough to win this game. They've got double digits from all 5 of their starters. They got 9 points from Gabe Vincent. Dalton Connect kind of, he hit a 3. He was more productive in his 16 minutes in this game on Monday than he has been in a lot of others. He had 7 points. Cam Reddish gave you 7. I'm like, they got enough from around that if they got half of those possessions back, they put up 120 and they win the game. So, I mean, I'm not
54, 47, 80 splits should be good enough offensively.
It should win you the game.
Yeah,
exactly. So I know listeners and stuff and viewers sometimes get, you're blaming LeBron, you're blaming this guy, you're blaming that. I'm not blaming LeBron. I just think he was part of the problem the Lakers had in terms of the pace of their offense. And I'm willing to give Detroit some credit for this, but I'm less concerned. Like, you can't fix the Detroit game, but you can't fix the next one. This is not going to be the last time the Lakers see an active young team. I suspect the Rockets are going to try something like this when they get down to Houston on that little mini road trip. An active young team. Portland's going to try this. I don't think they'll be very good at it because they're not as good as Detroit. But what do you do? What is your response to the next time this happens? Because it's going to happen over and over and over again until teams don't think it's going to work as effectively.
Well, I mean,
and so that's all I'm saying. I'm not blaming anybody.
No, I know you're not.
Just curious. I'm looking ahead to see what the next response is going to be.
Again, the piece of advice I would have would be don't do the work that makes it easier for them.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
The Lakers were crawling the ball up court. I mean, forget, like we talked about, it's been a habit of theirs. They were crawling it up court well before there was anything you were looking at and saying, like, wow, Detroit's physicality is getting to them.
Don't use all 8 seconds to get the ball over the midcourt line. Use 6 of them. Just a little bit more intentionality and pace. This is, and it's not even like Phil used to talk about the Lakers, taking too long. It's not a matter of running. It's not a matter of playing fast. It's just starting your stuff 4 seconds earlier, 5 seconds earlier in a possession.
Well, it gets back to also what this offensive sluggishness and that lack of pace reminds me of with the Lakers' former problems with how they approach defense. Again, with that switching, it just feels like a lack of intention. And before, the way they were switching, so excessively, without ever switching back or, like trading off assignments, anything like that, just sort of content to stick with a mismatch that was killing them defensively. When they run their offense like this, and it eventually just sort of piddles into freelancing because you've run out of time to do anything else, it just feels like them running offense with lack of intention. And for all of like the basketball IQ that they have on this team with like LeBron, with AD, I think, Austin can be a smart player. I think Gabe can be a smart player. D'Angelo Russell is a very smart player at the top of his game, but they can fall into a lot of bad habits and a lot of, I think, I don't know if disinterest is the wrong word, but
I would agree.
But I can't think of a better one. Like,
I think disinterest is the wrong word, because disinterest is a very pointed criticism, and I don't think they lost this game because they were disinterested.
That's not what I think either. They seem
I understand why
they seem disinterested. Okay, they don't seem disinterested in their opponent. They don't seem disinterested in the game. They sometimes seem disinterested in the steps and just following process. That's the thing I think they feel disinterested in at times.
And again, I think if you ask them, it's a lack of, I think it's a lack of awareness. It, to me, is like there's just this sort of it doesn't say, like, collectively they get into these stretches where that whatever that balance is, because again, you're taking the ball out of your own basket a lot. The Lakers didn't generate a lot of turnovers to get going the other way. They didn't give up a ton of offensive boards, whatever. But like, generally speaking, the Lakers were operating in a half-court setting, while the Pistons were the team that was getting the easy buckets out on the run, the stuff that really elevates your energy and does all that stuff. So, you have to generate those things yourself, over and over and over again in a half-court setting, which is harder to do. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's maybe awareness is the right word, because I agree with you. Disinterested, that implies certain things that I think, like, they were disinterested when they went to Detroit. Like, you can compare the game tape. I don't think that so, but they got to fix it. And like, you can't fall into the wrong side of the balance between we don't want to speed this game up. We don't want to run up and down the floor and try to do that with the Pistons. And we also, even if we did, we're not giving ourselves those opportunities. We're not turning them over. But we also don't want to go too slow. They were on the wrong side of that on Monday. And they've been on the wrong side of that a lot, especially since they, especially since they had, this downturn in their offense after the good start. So, I mean, JJ, we don't have time really to get into it, but Redick, we'll do it for, after the Christmas. Yeah, I don't think we're going to do a show on Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, but obviously we'll do one following the Warriors game on Christmas Day. But it's something to get into this week. Redick had some really interesting comments about what's been going wrong with the Lakers and what kinds of shots they ought to be taking. To get back to what they were doing before, which we can cover over the course of the week. But anyway, disappointing loss for the Lakers turns Wednesday's game much more into a must-win than it otherwise was. Lakers need to get this thing back on track, and that means winning a game, high-profile game on somebody else's floor
against a struggling Wednesday. Warriors team.
They know, right, but it's still a high-profile Christmas Day game. On the road, and so it's not going to be easy, but the Lakers need to win this one. So we will be back after that one. I hope everyone has a great Christmas Eve and a great Christmas Day, and first night of Hanukkah. The Lakers are going to spoil a lot of holidays if they lose that game on Wednesday. So don't do that, Lakers. We will be back after that game. Everyone have a great day. We'll see everyone after the game Wednesday.